This next section is on recognizing and challenging your own thinking patterns. Now, there are certain situations we can't change. However, what we can do is change how we feel or react to situations. Now, through our thoughts and actions, we can repair our feelings of anxiety, stress, or depression. But unfortunately, when we're tired, anxious, angry, or stressed, or depressed, our automatic or default thinking style tends to be negative and pessimistic. This is the way people are. So we're going to go through how we can change your response and thinking patterns. Because if we're not careful, our thoughts can maintain anxiety and stress if we let them. And we're going to go through some strategies not to let them do that. So the skill is to recognize patterns of thinking. If you have autism, you're good at patterns and sequences. So it's looking and identifying your own pattern or system of thinking, and not to automatically think pessimistic or other, what we call distorted or maladaptive thoughts. Now, we're going to go through now some common distortions in thinking that have been the basis of cognitive behavior therapy. Michelle and I are clinical psychologists and trained and qualified in CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy. And this is a way of identifying and challenging unhelpful or self-defeating thoughts that can be extremely useful tools for staying calm and clarity of thought. Now, often we consider our thinking style after the event and realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that, since at the time we're too emotional and too intense to think logically and clearly enough to identify the thinking distortion before the consequences. So the trick is to pick this up before it happens. Now, the more often we reflect on and challenge our habitual or unhelpful ways of thinking, the more quickly we can learn to challenge that way of thinking and their distortions. Now, a major part of autism working has been the meditation exercise, and there's a reason for this, is that we have been practicing throughout the program strategies to change thinking patterns, in that without self-awareness, unhelpful thinking patterns happen quite automatically, and subsequent rush of negative emotion can be very difficult to imagine. Now, what we're going to go through here are the most common thinking distortions. Chances are you will tick the box of some of these, but these are the official terms we would use. Black and white thinking. You think you are, in many ways, always going to experience things in a particular way. In other words, I can never do anything right. It will never work. I will always be unemployed. And there's a sense of it's either that or that. Also, overgeneralization. Just because one thing goes wrong, you think everything will go wrong. Such as, I made a mistake, that's it, I bet I'll lose my job. Right, that's it. It's almost a way of saying one negative thing event occurs, so there are going to be a lot more negative things occurring. No, it's just one event that's occurring. Another one is magical thinking. And you'll think that you'll have a bad day or something bad will happen because of almost a superstitious reaction. So, for example, today I had a difficult job putting my seatbelt on. When that happened last week, I had a dreadful day at work. That's it. That's it. There's a link, there's a connection, there's a sequence here. If I have a difficulty in putting my seatbelt in, it means it's going to be a bad day. It's magical thinking, it's superstitious. How you put your seatbelt in has got nothing to do with the rest of the day, but you believe that that's the case because you've noticed a potential pattern. Another one is a mental filter, to focus on one or two details and miss the big picture. For example, your line manager may be happy with what you're doing and say, right, that's great, we'll leave it there. But you know, there are 2 errors and I've got to correct them. And the line manager says, no, you don't need to. It's more than I expected. No, I must correct those. And that over-focusing on details and perfectionism may inhibit the actual amount of work that you complete because of that perfectionism. Another thinking distortion is disqualifying the positive. If something good happens, you dismiss it as being irrelevant or unique. For example, my boss didn't really mean it when they gave me a compliment. They were just being nice. They're supposed to say that. They're a boss. They're expected to do that. But it wasn't real. So there's a tendency that when something occurs that is good or a compliment, you may dismiss it of, no, it's irrelevant, it's not true, they're just being nice, it's not genuine, when in fact it may have been genuine. Another one is jumping to conclusions. You decide that you know what someone is thinking and feeling and what will happen into the future. This is sort of, in a way, mind reading. For example, none of my work colleagues like me. I can just sense it. Or fortune telling. I'll start this job, but I know I'm going to lose it. So that jumping to conclusions can be a thinking pattern of concern. Where's the actual evidence for that? Another is magnification and minimization. And this is particularly of concern for autistic adults. And magnifying the problem so it's all you see and you minimize the positive. It's a distortion such as catastrophizing. It's an absolute disaster. It's not seeing it in perspective that in fact it's only that much of a problem, but you make it that much. It's magnifying it. And also a problem of emotional reasoning. You think because you feel it, well, it must be true. But again, where's the evidence for this? Another one is should statements. Your thoughts reflect rigid rules about how you or others should behave, such as I should have known better, or I should be able to read the signals and I can't. And that leads to expectations and leads to very distressed thinking that you're not meeting the requirements. Another is labeling and mislabeling. You rely on blaming yourself, others, or events, but miss out on a deeper or more accurate understanding of yourself, such as, oh, I'm a loser, I'll always be a loser, I'm a natural victim, or that was a disaster, and labeling yourself inappropriately. Another is personalization. You think, oh, it was my fault, even when you didn't have control over everything that's happened. It's just that I see it personally rather than objectively. And that can lead to a view that I am always associated with failure and negativity. Now, those are the thinking patterns that can occur, as you can appreciate. To have that too much becomes a bit of a problem. So the skill is to identify a particular thinking style or pattern that may not be appropriate, maladaptive, and how you can challenge and look for the evidence and rethink your cognitive distortions. So we'll take them one by one. One is black and white thinking. Well, in fact, in reality, things are rarely black and white. Can you see the shades of grey in the situation? Instead of always, it's sometimes this happens. No, sometimes it does. Look for the exception in what you are thinking. For example, there's no point in trying, I always fail. But another way of thinking is, I can learn from my mistakes. I can ask for help. People will think that I'm being constructive and intelligent by asking for help. They won't think that I'm stupid. It's wise to ask for a help. There are many ways to solve a problem. If I keep trying, eventually I will find it and succeed. Overgeneralization. Now, if you can, get back to the specifics. Think only about this moment, this time, this situation. For example, Grace didn't call back, even though she said she would. I will never be able to make a good friend because she didn't call back. This is a classic autistic problem that we find, is that the person will make an assumption based on one event and overgeneralize it. No, she will never be there. She didn't turn up. Well, she doesn't want to be my friend. Well, actually, she missed the bus. There was a car crash. She couldn't make it. So the realistic thinking is that Grace may have forgotten that she said she would call because she's so busy at the moment, and the battery of her mobile phone may be dead. In other words, please don't jump to conclusions with only limited information. What about magical thinking? Well, remind yourself that the concepts you are linking may in fact be totally unrelated. Just because they seem to have occurred together in time doesn't mean to say there's a causal relationship. So check, are you creating faulty logic, what we sometimes call autistic logic? You've made an autistic rule, but in actual fact, it's a rule that you've made up that really doesn't count in life in general. For example, if I arrange all the cutlery in the cutlery drawer perfectly, today will go well. It's almost like an obsession that you have to do to alleviate your anxiety. But really, it doesn't matter how you arrange the cutlery in the cutlery drawer. Today will go well if I stay focused, seek help, and so on. So that magical thinking needs to be recognized. Whoa, it's not serious. I will move on. Another one is the mental filter. Are you looking at the total situation rather than overly focused on the details? Those who have autism tend to focus on detail. It's a talent of spotting the detail, and especially errors. But just step back for a moment and look at the big picture. And if the boss is happy with it, leave it be. They're the ones that make the final choice. You know you could improve it. You know that those things, but okay, if it's okay by the boss, I'll move on and not make, shall we say, too much time in correcting errors that don't need correcting in that situation. Another one is disqualifying the positive. You get a compliment. The boss says, that was a really good, no, they didn't mean it. They were just being nice, etc. Well, it's important to trust that good things will happen to you, and there may be something of substance in that compliment. So in realistic thinking, both good and bad things will happen. So please notice when good things happening. In disqualifying the positive, you may over-focus on the negative that becomes your belief. It's almost like a filter system. And you will only allow through that filter system that which confirms your belief, I'm no good, I'll never be able to do this, etc. And this proves it, I made a mistake, so I am stupid. But anything that is contrary to that belief is heresy and is to be rejected. So please, don't have that, shall we say, schema or filter system. Let into your mind those situations that are good. The realistic way is, nice things happen sometimes. Another one is jumping to conclusions. Well, no one knows the future. I know that, well, no, things can be different. We can't read minds. Start to accept that there will be uncertainty in your life. In autism, there's an intolerance of uncertainty, but uncertainty will need to be there and embraced and accepted. So it won't always mean lack of control, anxiety, and negative information. It can be friendship will end badly. They always do. But hang on, one day you might find someone who becomes a good friend. They may become more than a friend. So be open. Don't jump to conclusions that these things will always happen. Now, magnification and minimization. It's, for example, be a mirror, not a magnifying glass. What you're tending to do is reverse the telescope in a way from, this is gigantic. Look at the situation and yourself realistically rather than focusing only on what went wrong. For example, I'm a failure. I'm always a failure. Realistic thinking, I made a mistake today, but I can learn from my mistake. But next time, I will be able to achieve success. Learning from mistakes make me smarter and wiser. This is the mantra. When it's taking what are your particular thinking patterns and finding an antidote to those thinking patterns so that you have an opportunity not to be subject to maladaptive thoughts. Now, another one is emotional reasoning. Feeling or thinking that something is true does not automatically make it true just because you think it or feel it. I will always feel sad. Well, yes, I can understand that at the moment you have a tendency to feel sad, but to say you will always feel sad, well, there may be times that that sadness will go. Each sadness, if even depression, may be episodic and will naturally go. It's not there necessarily for the rest of your life. I can take steps like the ones in this program, Autism Working, to overcome my sadness and start to feel pleasure and happiness and success again, and to enjoy being me. What about should statements? Well, it can be having personal expectations and seeking perfection. That may be a good thing in work, but be careful. The other side of it is that you may become, shall we say, bogged down and stuck by errors. And I should be able to do. I should be perfect. I should never make a mistake. Well, but realistic thinking is no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. I don't like making mistakes, but they are inevitable. I will try and stay calm so that I can stay smart and learn from my mistakes. There's a little phrase that I use, that if you get upset, your IQ drops 30 points. It actually drops into the normal range. So stay calm and then you're smart. Labeling and mislabeling. Well, people and yourself are not purely described by a label. So it's practicing this way of thinking will seriously limit your understanding of situations and your ability to be flexible in your perception and response. For example, I'm stupid. Stupid is a negative label that will just make me feel bad. We can all do and say things that sometimes seem stupid, but this doesn't mean that we are stupid. Personalization. Take a step back and view the situation objectively and consider which part of the situation you actually had control of and responsible for, and those that you weren't. That if you can't control some aspects of the situation, you can control your own reaction. So these are the things to be aware of.